This is Pete Moore on the Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing back as a guest take two, harkening back to episode 114. Now we're in the 600s. UFC president, good friend of Petey Mo, Adam Sedlack. Welcome back to the show.
Pete, it's good to be back. And I also want to clarify, I made one of your books. Let's make sure.
You are in the Time to Win Again book, version 1. I don't know if anybody can see this, but just as a note to you and to others that are listening to this book actually won 7 Halo Cup awards, and I gave them to myself. So that's an award that if you get a Halo Cup award is from Integrity Square. But
I like it. I'm a recipient of a book, so I'm excited, and it's a signed copy by you, so I'm even more excited.
There you go. Hopefully that'll be worth something after they get through all the playing cards hysteria. That my book will be worth something with a signature on it. Hey, so when we spoke last time, many, many years ago, that was back in 2019. Okay, yeah. So we were like pre-COVID, and we were rocking and rolling, and you had done a financing, I remember, and you kind of like just took the leadership helm, and we're really trying to like reinvigorate the understanding of what the UFC culture, what the prototype looks like, what the playbook is. So go back as far as you want. Not that everyone's going to listen to your first one and then the sequel, but you kind of came in there with like, you had a puzzle that you kind of needed to put together.
Yeah, the puzzle was complicated. I mean, listen, UFC is an amazing brand, and we've all seen it grow, 7,000% over the last 20 years, and we've enjoyed a parallel growth process with that. When we originally signed up and did an agreement with UFC as a joint venture, it was really only to have 5 gyms and to test and run 5 gyms, have a good company. But man, the results were absolutely amazing. And so it was very important for us to understand how to grow, but not just domestically. UFC is what a global brand, right?
Sure.
So we had to figure out how do we create an infrastructure to grow it globally, to take this train different, combat-centric fitness strategy around planet Earth. So we got into franchising. And unfortunately, when we acquired a franchise system, it came with a little bit of hair, like most transactions probably do. You could probably speak to that, Pete.
Yeah, to acquire, unfortunately.
Yeah. And the biggest challenge, though, is we had 2 different brand strategies, right? UFC gyms were these 35 to 45,000 square foot locations that solved everything for the consumer. And the organization that was acquired was more 2,500 to 3,000 square feet that had some challenges at the base level from a franchise system perspective. And so that being said, it was still a huge opportunity because it gave us the keys to start franchising. And franchising we did. We started to develop franchises around the domestic US, but more importantly, internationally started to take off, just like parallel to the UFC. Of course, then COVID hits. Right. And COVID was a major intersection for this fitness industry. You've seen many of our fitness organizations, brothers and sisters, they went bankruptcy under the distress of COVID, really driven by rent liability and payroll liability and outstanding debts. And so as we were taking on COVID, with a lot of our gyms that were corporate owned were in California and Hawaii. We and in my opinion, California and Hawaii both had opportunities how they dealt with the COVID complexities. We were dealt with some cards in front of us that were very challenging, and quite frankly, we were creating so much rental liability that we were like, is this a position where at that time do we look at a reorganization in regards to like a Chapter 11? One of the things that were very important to us was our franchise partners. And so from a corporate perspective, we looked at ourselves and said, we got to protect 2 things. We got to protect the UFC, who is an amazing organization, and protect the integrity of the brand. And then we got to protect our franchisees that are in this for the right reason, the people that believe in the brand, that believe in the philosophy of what we're trying to do globally. So we decided to take the high road and not file Chapter 11, but came up with a very, what I think was a good strategy, which is take the assets that we had, the corporate locations. Let's have a transaction with some of those locations to well-capitalized franchisees, take the revenue from those transactions and just pay off our debt.
And take the proceeds from those.
Just take care of all the rent liability, make sure the landlords feel good about us, take care of all of our vendors, and just to make sure that we were in a good position, because we knew we were going to get through COVID. We didn't have any concern that on the other side that the gyms would not only come back, they would come back better than ever before, just driven by the variable of health, right? We knew health was going to become a major emphasis of the conversation. So we did that quite successfully. We got through it. We became very asset light and 100% franchise focused.
Gotcha.
So now when you fast forward, Pete, we're now developing in 48 countries. We're about to announce a new one tomorrow. We're opening about one gym per week globally. We anticipate next year we're going to get to about 1.5 gyms per week. And we're seeing record-breaking performances specifically in our model that's over 30 to 40,000 square feet, and all while introducing conceptually a new part of our brand, which is UFC Gym Jiu-Jitsu, which is a studio that's 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, owner operator, and it's set up in a position in regards to the FDD where it's very low capital to enter into the space, but the return on investment should be very strong.
So is that like a sub franchise, or is it if I buy a location in pick a country, I'm going to sublease a space out to a jiu-jitsu instructor, or I'm going to bring that person onto my team and run it?
It's up to the franchise owner. So so think in terms of US, right? If you think about a city that has 30,000 people, you would never put a 50,000 square foot UFC Gym Signature Club there. But if you were a black belt and you love jiu-jitsu, which, by the way, I'm sure the jiu-jitsu vertical is growing significantly. So if you were a black belt that wanted to be in your own business, now you can rationalize an investment in a market with a catchment rate of 30,000 people and still get very good returns based on a low cost build out, very low rent, and an owner operator type.
So you're saying you are franchising a jiu-jitsu small box boutique?
That's right.
Platform. Okay. I misunderstood. I thought you put in jiu-jitsu inside of the current UFC franchises, which they can do on their own. Yeah, they do.
We already have that. And we're giving the rights to all of our international partners because we always believe in innovation to our international and domestic partners. So we're giving them the rights to add those to their MTAs or master territory agreements.
Yeah. Just as a point of clarification, if we could hit pause for a second here and talk to the audience about bankruptcy, because a lot of people think bankruptcy is like, hey, I'm like I'm taking the keys and I'm shutting down the operation. But just for people to understand, there's different codes of bankruptcy. So what was deployed by a number of health club chains during COVID was to go Chapter 11. And Chapter 11 basically allows you to freeze all of your vendor payments, all of your lease payments, and then you get to cherry pick and select out which leases you want to continue with. But at the same time that you have this opportunity to kind of cleanse your liabilities, it also, your company is then put into play, technically, where somebody can go to bankruptcy court and try and buy it out from under you. So your benefit of a bankruptcy is like, hey, I could get some time to get my house back in order, restructure, and then hopefully come back out the other side. And, whatever the issue was, whether it's exogenous or whether it was my own fault of going to bankruptcy, I have the right to kind of reemerge. But at the same time, if I have the right to do that, then the quid pro quo is like, well, if somebody else wants to come and buy your company for the price of the debt or make an offer to the court that they think is fair market value as part of a 363 asset sale, you could lose your company. So there's a lot of risks to what you're doing. I think the part that's interesting to me that I did not think of when you're referencing, the potential that you could explore that as a route is that the average person or consumer doesn't really know what bankruptcy means, right? It's not protection, it's like failure to them, right? Yeah, I'd say it poison people. The second thing is the difference between UFC and UFC gyms. Obviously, we know it because we're in the industry, but the average consumer might think that everything is completely interconnected. So they might say, "Oh, I've heard UFC went bankrupt." So no, no, no. The division UFC, the joint venture, or the franchisee. So kudos or like hats off to you to say like, hey, I got to protect the entire ecosystem of everyone that's involved in this. And also, you don't want to give away a reason for your franchisees to try and say, oh, the franchisor is quote unquote insolvent, that I'm going to try and like break my franchise agreement, which I've seen in some cases as well.
And the crazy thing is we weren't insolvent at all because as you know, the way franchise royalty works, it's asset light. The corporate division where it owned 30 plus locations had huge rental liability, creating the problem. Now, I do want to call out the benefit of having a partner like UFC and a partner like Mark Masterov on the other side is both of those guys were paramount to helping us with our strategy and really making sure we were going to have the correct funding to get outside of COVID. So I'm really proud of the UFC gym organization and the team members. Mm-hmm. Proud of the UFC, and I'm proud of Mr. Mastro for all coming together, helping us chart the course to become asset light, pay off all our debt, and be in a great position as we got on the outside of COVID.
So one thing I want to talk about is, I'm very close friends and have, maybe responsible for getting Brent Leffel into the industry, which he thanks me or he curses me, depending on how he feels at a specific day. Yeah, I've known Mastrov since probably 1999, 2000. You had New Evolution Ventures, which, we were a part of, like helping form that, in a diligence and, marketing way. And then NEV ended up doing deals with UFC, One Life, Crunch, a couple other related companies in and around this narrow halo sector. When that fund kind of like moved on and completed its mission, what is the current ownership of UFC, and how is that like extreme level of independence or not having any kind of tentacles in of like, oh, I've got an affiliate or like sister company that's Crunch. Well, they're like could be a competitor at the same time, like we're friends with them. So how's like the new UFC gyms like?
Listen, the new UFC gym is amazing. Number one, first, before I get to the infrastructure, the new franchisees and the franchisees that adapted the operating pricing model strategy changes are absolutely accelerating. We're seeing some record-breaking performances, so very proud on that side. In regards to the infrastructure and the setup of the organization, as we looked at kind of the way we're going to restructure post-COVID, right, taking all the lessons through COVID and having all that liability, we were able to take the funds of the sales and primarily keep the organization somewhat the same setup from a cap table perspective, with Mr. Mastro owning a high stake, a high majority of the organization, and then having some other partners involved. It just put us in a great position to have no debt and to continue to build gyms across the globe in a royalty centric type of business that puts us in a very, very good position with very low liabilities.
Got it. So, it's one thing when a franchisor says, I just signed a deal in Canada, or I just signed a deal in Mexico. What is it like to run a business 24/7? What software are you deploying, and how are you managing, training, quality control, pre-sales? What does your entity look like these days?
It's a great question because it's a lot of work. You have to be on 24/7. We are here to serve the franchisee, understand what the needs are of not just the consumer, but the needs from a business owner perspective. If Pete owns a UFC gym, a 40,000 square foot location, what does Pete need to be successful? And my job is to make sure I get that to you. So when you intersect that with the opportunity of growth and development, there's a lot of um, um, requirements to make sure that not only do you protect your FDD by making sure you have the appropriate infrastructure of support around education, compliance, accountability, understanding how to have visibility of distressed franchisees where we can come in and apply additional support to make sure that the franchisees best served to have the highest chance of success. Celebrating and acknowledge those that are doing extremely well and carrying the flag in a way that we're all proud. Those are all important characteristics, but you have to your point, Pete, you have to have that infrastructure underneath to drive automation, predictability, where they can take an operating manual and an average team can get good results.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas historically in our industry, you had to have a great team to get good results. If you build your franchise system in a way that's too complicated, you're going to be so people reliant and you just can't scale that way.
Right.
So by bringing in Club Connect and our university functionality, Fran Connect, full CRM systems, and of course using the popular AI that everybody's using today, we now have those checks and balance of automation. We've created manuals and operational strategies where average teams can perform very well. And then it's just about applying the science of the manual into the reality of gym operations.
Got it. So a number of listeners of this podcast will inevitably be franchisors who are, 5 or 10 locations, maybe just put out their first or second FDD and are jonesing to sell franchises, right? And give us a little bit of your history and, wise man's kind of view on, how often do you say no? How excited are you when you do say no? And how hard is it to say yes?
Yeah, again, it's arguably what I've learned through both personal failure and personal success is how to view franchise opportunities with new partners coming into the system.
Mm-hmm.
When I initially, I was a gym guy that came up through 24-hour fitness and working, my first 16 years of my career at 24-hour before transitioning to UFC. And then we had just corporate clubs at UFC. So we weren't even in the franchise space yet. But as I started to get educated, once we acquired a franchise company, I had to get very educated very quickly. And I learned a lot of, it's not just about getting franchises in your system, it's about who you get in your system. Are they properly capitalized? Do they have the right passion? Do they actually have not just an empathetic view of your brand, but are they aligned from a philosophical point of view of how to drive performance and not just drive performance, but also how to create their own, professional legacy under the UFC gym flag? And so there were people that would come into our system that were incredibly passionate, amazing people, but had no capital. You have to say no.
Yeah.
But maybe there's opportunities to bring them and connect them with other people that do have capital. And then we had very high capital, rich entities, organizations, people that wanted to jump in, but they just were looking at it from a transactional business point of view without having their heart intersecting into what's so great about the brand. And my experience has shown me through the years that you really have to check both boxes. And so sometimes it's about bringing both of those entities together. If they don't qualify on capital, they don't qualify on passion, how can I get those two things married to new franchise candidates coming in? Now, in a perfect world, you have franchise candidates that come in that can show their passion for the brand, and they can show that they have the ability to capitalize it properly without bringing on too much debt. That is a big trap door that people can fall into. It's great that you're passionate about any franchise system, right? It doesn't matter, Planet Fitness, whatever franchise you're into, it's great. But if you go in and you try to structure the deal where it's 90% debt, I don't care what kind of operator you are. I don't care what kind of real estate you have, the debt's going to swallow you up. So you have to make sure you look at how much is leveraged and how much you can operate via free cash flow. And we've been able to put a formula together to identify the most likely successful franchise candidate, and we definitely approve them 10 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, there's people that we can't approve just because of the pitfalls of what could happen if you don't have the right capital, the right passion for the industry.
Gotcha. Okay, my last question, and I want to go on a little rant first because I feel like this could happen, and you might be the person to do it or the brand to do it.
Okay.
I sometimes go around and I do these seminars, and I say at some point in the near future, a company like Smart Water is going to come and say, "I want to put my name on your health club," just like the T-Mobile Arena, right? Or or Celsius is going to come and say, "I want to be the official sports drink of UFC gyms, and I want my logo like on the building, but like alongside." Given the power of UFC and what they get for logos inside the octagon and the amount of marketing inertia that entity has from the event standpoint, how far off are we for somebody coming and saying to you like, "Hey, said like $100,000 per month, like I want to put my name on these locations or 10 grand, whatever it is, like a billboard or like a real, like, I want to name the health club," because people go in there more than they're going to watch, the Vegas Knights hockey game, going in there every day. And you got like over 1,000 people a day. Like, what's that worth to me?
Yeah, well, I was at my gym this morning. I drove in the parking lot, and on the building it said UFC Gym Halo. And so,
Nice. Are you
yeah,
serious, bro?
it's already starting.
No
It's
way,
already
dude. I
starting.
like that. I like
Yeah,
that.
no, I think it's a good call. I think there's some sensitivity to how you intersect branding with co-branding. And so I do think it's a true reality, though, that of where we're going, especially in the world of impressions. And as you know, it's not uncommon for busy gyms to have 2,000 workouts a day. And not only are they workouts, but they're active users where they're very engaged to the surroundings
Right.
that they're working out in. So it's a good call. And there's already systems out there through video that do shared advertising and so forth. But yeah, I mean, with us, we'd have to align with a UFC sponsor, right? So we'd have to
Yeah, yeah.
intersect there. But I agree with you. I think there's going to be major sponsorship opportunity, not just on signage or inside gyms, but also on the verticals of marketing, on how you communicate with your members, how you do annual contest for your member base and your team members. There's going to be all sorts of synergies, I think, back and forth to between what you're saying and where the industry's going.
And my last question, this is a little bit self-serving, but we are in the middle of a lot of independent operators that have anywhere between 25 to 75,000 square foot health clubs or sports complexes. They may own the real estate, they may not own the real estate. They have no succession plan in place. There's no kid that's in the business. There's no general manager who's kind of like next up that has the ability to basically buy out the owner. How prevalent or how much potential opportunity is there for a UFC gym to say, come back to you and say, "Hey, instead of building a greenfield, like I'm going to look at this 50,000 square foot, X Gold's gym or X World gym, and will you guys let me buy this thing and refurbish it? Not just like pull the sign down like an LA Fitness, e-sport thing that they used to do, but like a real deal. But I'm going to save 6 to 12 months and have like a membership base, start. Do you see conversions as a real growth avenue, or is it something that might be more akin to other brands and UFC's got a little more specialized, DNA
Uh,
to it?
again, it's a great call. The great thing about UFC Gym is we're a gym first. So our average workout floor is 30,000 square feet, right? And then it gets to the value proposition of MMA and other group programming. So we can fit into any model and just increase the average price per consumer because of the MMA offering. And quite frankly, Pete, we're already seeing some examples of that type of transaction. I'm now frequently having landlords call me, and I've just opened 3 of these over the last 6 months, where they're the landlord and the owner of the property, non-fitness, and they say, "Hey, listen, I want to be your franchisee, but I want you to run and operate it. I don't want to deal with it." So we've created a management service company, and we can operate the gym A to Z for the landlord. They build it, and we're partners with them. And obviously, they get to participate on both sides. They get the profit of the gym, and then they get the rent that's associated with the rental expense. And so it works out really well. And then to your point on rebranding existing facilities, because as facilities start to age, they become more and more irrelevant. So you always want to take a look at what the potential is if you bring in additional innovation or a different strategy into your business. So we offer the same thing. We've done that same thing where we've gone into existing fitness organizations, changed the brand to UFC Gym, and they've ended up being very successful. So it's certainly a lane that's going to not just be for UFC Gym, but I think many fitness operators out there.
So you got a lot of quotes. I also see you doing, sometimes I'll wake up in the morning, I'll get like a motivational, 2-minute riff from you. We might be in your car or you might be in some foreign country. And so I appreciate that. But anything you want to leave our audience here with is one of your latest and greatest quotes or something you live by, or, a couple words that, that's a Sedlackism or a new one.
Well, I don't know if I have a quote for you, but I'll just share my opinion. I do have the benefit of going global and seeing different cultures and people. And at the end of the day, planet Earth, all of us are pretty much in the same place, right? We want to live a good life. We want to get fit. We want to stay healthy. There's a lot of division out there, whether it's political division, business division, whatever it might be. But for clarity purposes, the consumer is looking to go to a place to have a good experience, to be in a good community, to be somewhere they trust, and they want to be able to be in a position where they can be a little bit vulnerable to become the best version of who they can become after their workouts and so forth. So I think the importance of just the global community continuing to have conversation, continuing to be able to talk to one another, to close the gap on our differences so we can not only provide great businesses, but listen, as a globe, we can get along, because I think we're all getting tired of these conflicts, these military conflicts, and these pointing fingers and so forth. At the end of the day, we're one human race trying to find our fullest potential. We all have that in our DNA. It's just about the ability to communicate across the board.
Well, I think a lot of that starts on the gym floor and realizing that people just want to be the best version of themselves and want to surround themselves with the same type of people to get them there. So we're in vigorous agreement with you on that. So to the health, active lifestyle, and outdoors segment, you are a shining light in making that happen globally. We appreciate what you've done, our friendship for a long time. And from episode 14 to over 600, we'll check in with you around 1,000 and let's see what your global count is up to, and maybe world peace at the same time. So good to see you,
Thanks,
buddy.
Pete. Good to see you.
Awesome. Go Halo. Thanks for coming on. This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks, your captain speaking. I am the founder and managing partner at Integrity Square. We've been around now for 15 and 1/2 years. We have been helping people like yourselves get capital, do mergers and acquisitions, consulting, strategic advice in the health, active lifestyle, and outdoor Halo sector, trying to help as many entrepreneurs as possible get to the next level and take that inflection point and be the force behind your growth. We are helping companies that have at least $3 million of EBITDA, around $10 million of revenue, and we are positioned to help you get institutional growth capital or to negotiate deals with strategic partners. If you go to integritysq.com/ISQ, you can see our capabilities deck. Happy to set up a consultation at any time. That is free of charge, and we look forward to you helping solve obesity, loneliness, and diabetes. And go Halo.